Welcome back to Talkback. Richard O'Reilly here until 1:30 in for William. So we're going to talk about phones. Of course, we know the perception of children and their phones. We're always saying, look, young people live on them, nose stuck in their phone. That's the caricature we give it. Adults, though, are we all guilty of the same thing? Doing exactly the same, sitting on their phone? The Children's Commissioner for England seems to think so. She's urging parents to lead by example and switch their phones off over Christmas. So this is Dame Rachel de Souza. She says young people are crying out for more quality time with their families. When better to do it at Christmas. She also says her research shows that children want to have limits on how much they use their phone imposed on them at home.
We can talk about, we're going to put these laws in, we're going to put these bans in, but actually one of the most important people are the family. You could ban the phones in school for all you like, and most head teachers do, but it's what happens at home. So parents' leadership is really, really important.
Yeah, almost taps into a previous debate we just had today, parental responsibility over legal responsibility. So should parents be leading by example and switching their phones off this Christmas? Like, I'm putting that away. Would that even make any difference? Kids might look at their parents and say, well, I don't do what they do anyway, so I'm just going to stick on mine. So we may just be able to accept that mobiles, tablets, all sorts of tech are integral to our lives throughout the year, and Christmas is no different. Tara-Lea McElduff from Pretzel Play joins us, which supports more traditional forms of play. Janet Ward, mother of two, joins us, as well as Matt Porter, who's a tech and gadget expert and a father of 5. Well, Matt, I'll start with you, because it must be kind of difficult for a tech and gadget expert to put his phone down at any point. This is kind of your bag, isn't it?
It is quite difficult to put your phone down, I think, for anyone, but I've always kind of drawn the line, and I think my wife has as well, that when we're sitting having a meal, especially something over Christmas, then there is kind of no excuse, emergencies accepted, why we should be sort of fiddling around with our phones. But unfortunately, they have become quite integrated in our lives. And of course, they're always vibrating and buzzing and beeping, and there's always something that we're afraid we might miss. But yeah, we try at home not to involve mobile phones during a mealtime.
So mealtime is one thing. What about quality time? Because I think the argument the English commissioner is making is that it's also time to say, let's have like a 1980s Christmas or an early 90s Christmas, for listeners who are able to remember that. Let's pull out a board game or something instead and put your phone down. Whereas now you can actually play most board games probably on your phone. Is that a runner for you then, Matt? Is that the sort of thing maybe you would think? Because I don't know if many parents do think of themselves as much of an offender with a phone as their children are.
I think now that parents have probably become almost eclipsed their children with the use of phones. I think that the app market or the phone market has realised that it's quite a large market, the parent side of things. So I think that they're probably equal or worse offenders. We do make an effort at Christmas to try and do something, whether that's a board game, or my wife's very eager a lot of the time to go out and she finds little card games, things like almost like Trivial Pursuit but on a smaller scale. So we can do those. Even if we go out for a date night, we'll have a pack of, we sound like bores, but we'll have a pack of cards with us, and we'll sit in the restaurant after we've eaten, and we might do that, but that's because we don't get an awful lot of downtime, so it's a good opportunity to do that. But certainly it's terribly boring if everyone's just sitting there eating their Christmas dinner staring at a phone and not saying anything to each other, or perhaps they're messaging each other, who knows, but it's not terribly exciting, is it?
Sending each other photographs of the Christmas dinner probably is that's all going. Janet, but what about you and your two? You've got 2 kids. Who's worse on the phone, yourself or your kids?
I have to hate to admit it's probably me.
Very brave of you. Well done.
But it's, I suppose, due to my work, and like I do a lot of voluntary work, so there's a lot of people constantly messaging me. But again, to have quality time when you've got 2 teenagers, it is difficult because, they love being in their bedrooms and do whatever. But I think the difference in a boy and a girl, he's always on his PlayStation, etc. So it's not even the phone. and she will be on it. But she's like, my daughter's very good, but I'm definitely, I know, like even this last few weeks, sitting down every night with my daughter to watch like a silly Christmas movie. If my phone beeps, this is her, don't touch it. And I'm like, yep, dead on, I have to respect that. Christmas Day, we would never sit and use our phones at the table because it's madness. There's always so many of us and so much fun. And I love Christmas. I really thrive on family, etc., getting together and extended family. But I do know on Christmas evening we have used our phones in the past to play interactive like games on the telly. So not necessarily sitting on social media, etc., but actually using them to play games on the TV, etc., which has been good. But I definitely do think children do crave that kind of family time, whilst they'd be afraid to admit it. I think there's an inner kid even in all of us, or adults as well. We all love that kind of switching off and just being present.
Producer Kerry has sent me the word phubbing with a PH, PHUBBING. This is, here's the definition of it. It is the practice of ignoring one's companion or companions in order to pay attention to one's phone or other mobile device. So we actually have a name for it now. That's the key point to take for this. Tara-Lea, what about you? For Pretzel Play, so you support more traditional forms of play. Give us a couple of maybe pointers. What could people maybe be looking out for, as opposed to, and I don't want to demonize anybody on their phone, because it's kind of instinctive for a lot of us. We're going to just pull your phone out, you're just sitting there and you realize you're reading an interesting article, and that takes you to another one and another one, and that's just the way it runs. But if you don't want to do that anymore and want to make a conscious choice to perhaps spend a bit more time engaging personally with people, what's the best way to play then, and do it that way?
Yeah, and you spoke really well. It is a tool that provides so much ease in life now. But I suppose get into the Christmas period, if you've kids, even younger kids too, mum there has teenagers, it's nearly going in with an intentional strategy over the Christmas period, because it's the one time a year where life does shut down, similar to COVID, when there's not as much running to do. So if you as a parent know that you are craving that family time connection, thinking about it now, listen to this, and the couple of weeks that you're off, how can you intentionally spend time as a family without even having to spend a lot? As I had spoke about, if your son loves soccer and the dad or the mum loves sitting watching it and putting your phone away, just like mum had spoke about watching movies with her daughter, and not bringing out the phone, or going to watch the local soccer matches in Boxing Day whenever they're on, or taking part in the local runs or the cold water dipping that's happening all throughout the Christmas break. So really carving out intentional family time, because it's really important to rest at this time. But if rested means everyone just goes on their devices and then just goes down the scroll hole and the digital time takes over family time, it's not really a good use of time for families. So if you feel like you may slip into that, it's carving out what you could do now with your family and setting rules. Get them on board and say, mum and dad's going to put down their phone. What would you like to do? Is there any baking, or is there any movies you want to watch? Will we pop popcorn together? Really stripping it back. And even for younger kids, building dens and in the house, and really the old school stuff that we all done. And it's quite funny, we all done it, but we're all addicted. So let's bring it back and let our kids have that traditional Christmas we all had that our parents gave us. It's a really intentional time.
Are you finding more parents maybe coming your way looking for something like this? Because it requires a bit of self-awareness. But I'd say, like smartphones have been around. When was the first iPhone? Like
2012.
2008. Okay. So we have a date. Now, obviously, other smartphones are available, but I just seem to remember the iPhone being kind of the dawn of that era, though the likes of BlackBerry might sort of argue back in the day. But Tara-Lea, what about now? Do you find more people approaching you, trying to find, look, we've had this for a long time. This has been such a key part of my life. I want to maybe try and find a way to, reconnect with the non-phone lifestyle. Are you finding more people?
Yeah, 2025 was the biggest shift. Post-COVID, it moved really, really quick. Everything went digital very, very quick. Schools, life, and kids were immersed in that. And the burnout came really quick this year, and the tide's turned. There's lots of good organisations, Smartphone-Free Childhood, campaigning for all that. So you're seeing a real shift. But as you say, self-awareness is really key, and it can be really hard to call out your own device use. But I always come from a place of not parent shaming. We were all sort of fed this highly addictive tool, and big tech created that. So we're nearly having to call it out on ourselves and be intentional and consciously move away from that to how we've lived as humans from the dawn of time. And there is a big shift happening this year because burnouts come when you're that turned on to all that kind of notification. You burn out really, really quick, and you're missing real presence and connection in real life.
There's also, isn't there, that argument too, I think, especially for kids before bed, where a screen like that's not particularly good for them because of the kind of artificial light nature of it. So
the blue light,
yeah, so you're not kind of maybe getting the full rest, Matt, that you maybe are. I mean, the one thing that we should point out though as well is because, and again it comes into that thing, I don't want to demonize smartphones and gadgets, because Matt, these things are really, really useful.
Yeah, I think one of the important things is as well is that you can imagine most children now know nothing other than a smartphone. It was when they grew up, they were born, it had been invented and it was part of everybody's life. So it's sometimes the argument, I guess, the saying that about normality is whose normality, but I think it is about unplugging. Sorry, you were saying I've gone off on a rant. What did you say? Sorry.
I was just pointing out just how useful phones are. I mean, when all said and done, there's a reason why we're maybe all hooked on them, is because they've become such an integral part of our life. We actually rely on them. It's not that we just love them; we rely on them.
Yeah, absolutely. We're using them to talk to, with the birth of AI agents now, like ChatGPT and others, where we can have a conversation, almost a human conversation with them, and discuss our problems with them and talk about things that might be worrying us and all of those kind of things, which is not a great thing because it can
just lost
which
Matt.
Has been well documented, but
we just lost you a second there, Matt. We'll just double check your line, but I'll bring Janet in, because you mentioned maybe sitting down watching a film, because that's one of the things that I almost feel that we've maybe lost a little bit, and I'm really guilty of this. When I'm watching a film now, I spend a lot of my time on my phone. So going to the cinema is actually a really good experience, because you do sit and you actually watch things, or watching a foreign film that requires subtitles, because you've got to pay attention to it. But I find myself on the phone looking up, actually probably reading about the film I'm watching at the time. It makes no sense.
I think we all do that, even especially if you're watching like a Netflix documentary or something. I certainly would do things like that, but I definitely think my daughter keeps me accountable when we're watching something, and I've actually got into that way of just put the phone aside or whatever. But again, I think it's the older generation have more issues with telephones, etc. Because when we were young, we were out playing, etc. I don't think kids even know how to play now, because, things that was acceptable for me to do as a child, you certainly wouldn't allow your children out and about or doing whatever now. So phone really is their, I suppose that's their youth, isn't it? But definitely, I still think that we need to have, as parents, accountability. But again, people use their phones all the time for working, but back even before COVID, you would have worked in the office or wherever, left work at 5 o'clock, your laptop was off. Whereas now it's so easy to continue working on in the evening, especially if it's like social media based, or you're checking in with things or whatever.
Just check of the work email, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's I think there is, they talk about work-life balance, but is it? If you're continuing it on in the evening, there's like no switch off. And I suppose as a parent, then I'm probably, guilty of doing that, where I should just say 5 o'clock, whatever, it's my time, kids' time now. But I don't think there's a right or wrong, and again, it's not about shaming everybody, but I suppose it is just about making that conscious effort, especially at Christmas. Who doesn't love a board game or falling out over Monopoly or something? It's just, for me, it's part of Christmas, isn't it?
Despise each other by the end of the game. But Janet, what about? I mean, you also don't want to fall into that trap of sort of wanting your kids to have the Christmas that you had, because I'm sure that parents of previous generations says, look at these kids with their remote control cars and videos and DVDs or whatever. I had a cup and ball or whatever to keep myself happy. So I'm sure everyone kind of maybe looks on the new generation and thinks they're having it easy and they need to drop that.
But I had this conversation. I was out for lunch with two friends yesterday, and we were talking about this, and I said, what we're giving off to now with our children, what will they be giving off about with their children? I mean, I actually dread to think when they're older, what will their children be getting for Christmas, etc. So, I think And I would say the generations before us done the same. You know, I hear my mum talking about, you know, God, you don't know how to live. You didn't do this and we done this and we done that. So I think it's just
we weren't buying
with
pots of
every
goose fat for our
generation
roast potatoes back then.
You know, with every generation comes new, I suppose, difficulties and, you know, new trends, new everything. And the phone and technology, you know, there's so many benefits, but there's also so many negatives. And I suppose my stance on it has always been, it's a game of trust with my kids. You let me down, you lose it for yourself, you know. And I've tried to be very open and very honest in lines of communication of difficulties and dangers and things. But at the same time, it's like, you know, nobody's really protected. I think there's a lot of things could be done higher up to protect everybody, but I definitely think, you know, on holidays we really should, and I mean that's me coming from saying I'm the guilty part, we really should make an effort of just actually enjoying family, because I think family is very precious.
We're going to take a call. Norman's in Bangor. Hiya, Norman.
Good afternoon, Richard. Merry Christmas to you and all the staff.
What are you doing? Are you putting the phone down for Christmas?
I switch my phone off when I go out shopping. My phone's switched off and left in the car. But I see young people going to school, their faces are stuck in their phones. See people walking their dogs, their faces are stuck in... We're like a zombie nation now. And you go into the supermarkets, people are sitting with their phones. And if somebody sits down beside you, the first thing to do, instead of having a chat with you, they take out their phone and their nose is stuck in it. Now, when I was growing up, Richard, you got a bicycle for Christmas or a football. You were out enjoying sports, playing football, out cycling on your bike. You got board games, Ludo, drafts, snakes and ladders, and the full family joined in and all these activities. But nowadays, the people can't leave their phones down.
So you probably agree with the Children's Commissioner over in England then, basically saying, look, parents lead by example, put your phones down.
Christmas is a family day, Richard, for the whole family to be together, to enjoy all the activities at Christmas. So switch the phone off, leave it down, and get out on your bike, go to watch a football match, watch television, watch a film, or play board games.
But here's the thing, Norman, I would say back in the day, people might have said, what are you doing watching that television box sitting there? I didn't know that back in the day.
When I was young, if I got a football for Christmas, I was out up to the park playing football all day, come in and playing board games with my mother and father and my brother. So there was no phones in them days, and life was life in them days. People enjoyed life better than what the children are enjoying their life today. I never see a child out on a bicycle hardly anymore.
I hope you get a kick about this year, Norman. Anyway, thanks as always. Sorry, was that you, Janet, or Tara-Lea? Who was
Tara-Lea? Sorry, Richard, I was just going to say, with regards to, yes, every new decade comes technology, but the studies and the research is only coming out from how fast digital devices and the impact they're having on brain development. And I suppose what we had is we had breaks and ad breaks, and when a series ended, it ended. But now it's 24/7, so there's no break, and then that does impact brain development. And I don't think any other generation's ever had to deal with something that's so toxic and so accessible. So it's not like we're demonising tech and all that. It's just the studies are showing, and child development is skewed now. And
yeah, because my son would say he wants to watch Spider-Man. Back in the day, he'd had to wait for that to come on the TV.
Yeah.
He can't just get me to stick it on.
Yeah. And then just not do the whole binging of it, over and over and over, 24/7. So we're only really seeing what the long-term applications of that has happened. Like that just kind of has seeped in. We all were really happy to have it so accessible, but the research and the clinical studies and brain development and all that is showing that is not good for human, especially younger people, young brains.
Matt, what if you get your kids a phone for Christmas? Then it's probably a bit harsh to say you got to put that thing down. As someone who got a toy you maybe liked when you were a child, the wild horses aren't dragging that thing out of your hand.
I guess so. I remember getting when I was a kid. I remember getting a Commodore VIC-20 computer for Christmas.
Yeah.
in 1981, 1982 or whatever, and I remember wanting to spend my entire day playing around with that, but I was given, luckily, if you think about it, we had less televisions there, so I couldn't dominate the use. I think I was using a black and white TV in the dining room or something, but I was given a time, you're not spending all day on that computer, and I think that's kind of, as grumpy as I felt at the time, it was true. Just going back to where we're saying about the way phones work, is that the real change, I believe, was when the BlackBerry was released and a new technology came out, which was called push notifications. So rather than us going and checking our mail and seeing if we had any messages, those messages were pushed at us, irrelevant. And that started the ball of being pestered, if you like. Our phones beeping all the time. We don't get that opportunity to go and check those messages. They're just thrown at us. So I think that's the
I've never
big
thought of
issue
push
with
notifications as that, because I just now think of them as like, oh, here's some breaking news that I need to know. I've never actually thought of it as, here's my phone pestering me to pick it up and look at it.
It was because of the way that BlackBerry worked, where the mail server actually ran on the handset. It could actually tell you had mail rather than you independently having to go off and check. So that's that, and that technology is now used everywhere. So we're just getting information thrown at us. We're not going off and saying, oh, check my mail. Oh, that's how many messages I have. And that's where we lose that control over saying, I'm just going to go and check my mail. I won't be a minute. It's too late. It's just thrown at us.
It's done. It's there. Janet, so in terms of, what is it, a week today till Christmas Day, isn't it? A week today? That's it. I'm going to do that thing. Oh, this time next week it'll nearly be all over. That's what we always like to say about it. But look, are you going to have a bit of time set aside? Have you maybe thought about that? You have two teenage kids, boy and a girl, isn't it? Are you going to say to them, look, put those away. I'm putting mine away. We're going to sit here and play, I don't know what your board game of choice is, Cluedo or
I
Ludo
think, I have family coming over from England, and I know my niece, she's an adult too, she's another big child. She's already purchased the board games for Christmas night, so there's like going to be 10, 11 of us together. So when we get together after dinner, it's always like, we get the board games out and see who's still speaking at the end of the night.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse, the board games or the phones, but no, we always do have fun. And we do continue that over Christmas. Like if we have like another night, we always do try and do a wee board game or something like that. I definitely do agree. I think it is important to do those things and to spend that time.
Tara-Lea,
and even like the younger kids, play with their toys with them, etc.
Yeah, I think that's good. Tara-Lea, presumably you got a lot of non-phone related activities set up for next week.
Yeah, anything. I will spend money on anything get kids outside playing, racking and tearing. I'm all for that feral childhood, and I think it's really important for younger kids.
You get on well with Norman. He's looking to kick about on Christmas Day.
Promoting sport and outdoors as much as we can, especially in them early young years, primary school years. Because tax around is not going away, but we can be really intentional what we do in families.
10 seconds, Matt. Phone going down for Christmas next week.
Yeah, I have a little jail in the middle of the table with a key in it, and that will all the phones will go in that.
Lovely stuff. Thank you so much, Matt, Jan, Tara-Lea. Thank you very much. We'll see you all later.